Hi friends, my name's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and this boy here is Aries. He is our visual sunset male, and he's actually my favorite snake, and that's why he's almost always with me in these videos. But this video, for this week, we're going to be talking about some kind of controversial topics, and there's nothing like crazy, but like more business related. Like, is it ethical to flip a snake? Is it ethical to breed ball pythons specifically for a business? Like in the idea with the primary goal of generating a profit, things like that. Anyways, if you're interested, please hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe, and let's get to it. Let's start off with just like overview, kind of like framing context for this video. When we say ethical, good, bad, anything like that, that's just our opinions. People can have completely different opinions, and just because opinions differ does not mean either one is invalid or has more weight than the other. This is just simply, not even honestly, it's mine, my personal opinion on these topics. So we'll kind of go into it from that angle. If you guys disagree, definitely leave a comment below. Talk about it, but not just like, you're stupid and we hate you and all of those kind of regular things that happens when controversy goes on social media. But say why, like why you have a differing opinion, or if you agree, like why do you agree? Things like that. But just kind of prefacing the whole video with like this up front. So first, let's talk about, just because it's something that happens, I wouldn't say a lot, but it's within the community, and it's the idea that if you are going to sell a ball python, if we had one of these babies, pretty much everybody in the community agrees that it's perfectly fine to sell an animal that you produce. And it's generally accepted to sell an animal that you had bought from somebody else but no longer need for your like breeding plans, or maybe like you produced a replacement for them that's even more powerful or something like that. Generally, I say that both of these are accepted for the ball python hobby. There might be people from like PETA or something who disagree with the idea of owning animals at all, but that's not what I'm talking about on this. When I say flipping animals, I mean specifically buying an animal without the intention of breeding, without the intention of owning them as a pet, but simply to turn around and sell them for a profit. Is that like ethical? Is that good? What's like your opinion on it? And for me personally, I think that that's perfectly fine. I actually think that the majority of businesses in the entire world operate like that. Like most things that you find in Walmart were not assembled and built by Walmart. They were built by somebody else. They were sold to a wholesaler who sells them to Walmart, a distributor, all of this kind of thing. And there's a whole supply chain in there. And I think that that has a place in the ball python industry. I think that there are lots of people who make really, really genetically powerful animals, or that's like their goal for it. They're trying to make these projects. So like, let's say we paired Aries, who is a visual sunset male, and at some point down the road had like trying to shoot for like a red striped yellow belly sunset desert ghost, and we end up with the normal. That's maybe like a normal male, 66% poshet sunset, 66% poshet desert ghost. Realistically, there might be somebody who wants to take the gamble on that, but that is an animal that would be like perfect to sell to a wholesaler if you had enough animals to sell to a wholesaler. The wholesaler then would sell it to other people, or they, like as in other breeders, other businesses who would then sell retail, or the wholesaler themselves would take their wholesale animals and sell them retail. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with this. I believe that what this does is it gives a way for people who are working very, very specific projects and don't have the space or room or desire to care for every single animal that they ever produce, but that there's not necessarily a good, strong market for them based off of like what they're in order to serve another customer, because there's going to be somebody who wants just a normal ball python as a pet, and that they're only looking to spend $50 to $100 on it. But if you're working on projects where the animals are $5,000 plus, it may not seem like it's worth the breeder's time to put in all the effort and energy to find the buyer for that one $50 to $100 snake. So I think that in this situation, wholesalers and flipping animals is perfectly fine, and I think that it is a needed part of the hobby in order to make sure that everybody is served equally well. Because a pet owner probably isn't looking to buy a $5,000 snake. And that's, like, they may, I'm not trying to say that nobody would, but most likely they are looking for those animals that are more affordable and that the breeders who are working really, really high-end projects don't want to take the time and energy trying to find a customer who would best be served by that. So I think that flipping animals, perfectly fine, and in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with it. If you guys disagree, again, please leave a comment below. If you do agree, leave a comment below. I think that it only helps out people by being able to connect the right customers to the right product. So that's my thoughts on flipping animals. Controversial ball python topic number 2 is actually a little bit broader than the very first one. So the first one was pretty specific, flipping ball pythons, is that okay, is it not, why, kind of things like that. This one is it ethical to breed any animal, specifically ball pythons, but as a business, where the goal is to make a full-time, or at least the goal is to make an income from them, not just simply some extra money because you are working a project and you want to sell the animals that don't progress your project and it can help out somebody else. So I personally believe that it depends. I think on the surface, there's no ethical problem with breeding animals and selling them as a business with the goal to produce an income. I think that the problem comes in when people overextend themselves and that they are breeding so many animals that they are not able to provide adequate level of care for all of their animals. Not saying every single animal is poorly taken care of, but that they start missing things, and maybe that there are dirty cages for so long that fungus and mold starts growing and it makes the animal sick and stuff like that. I think that, and again, it's not every single time an animal's sick means that somebody's not taking care of their collection or their family or anything like that, but that's the line for me, is when you have so many animals that you are unable to adequately care for all of them. And I think at that point, the ethical thing is to pull back a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to get out of breeding ball pythons altogether, but just realize your limits. And once you realize whatever limits you can adequately care for the animals or your family or your business or anything like that, staying within your limits is what's going to make sure that you take proper care of all of them. A follow-up to the business angle is profit ethical? So let's say that you bought an animal a year ago, 2 years ago, and you got them for $300, and you grow them up and you have a clutch with them and you produce the exact same animal, exact same sex. It doesn't necessarily matter what it is, but the price is doubled. Is it ethical to sell it at that much higher price, or should you sell it closer to the price that you bought it in? And I personally think that it would be unethical to undercut the market so bad to price it at what you bought them in, because the demand shows that people are willing to pay a higher price and that other people have potentially invested a higher amount than you did because maybe you just got a really, really good deal. And if you undercut them, you are making it harder for everybody to succeed. So I think that pricing an animal for the fair current market value, even if that is a profit, is not just simply ethical, but it's the right thing to do. I don't think that there's anything wrong with giving somebody a deal or doing a discount or anything like that, but I do think that a lot of, I would say not a lot of breeders, but it isn't uncommon for somebody to look at the current market, see what's the lowest price, and then price it lower than that, because their idea is oh, well, mine will be the first one to sell. And I do think that that happens, and I don't think that just one person undercutting the market is going to do anything horrible to it, but it's when it happens over and over and over and over again, that's where I feel that you get into the situations of a market crashing or anything like that. Not that I think ball pythons are going to crash, but it is something to be aware of. So I think that pricing in a profit is perfectly fine, and it's also the only way that an actual business can be sustainable. And if you provide really good care for your animals and people trust you and they know that if they buy from you, they are getting exactly what they bought and they are getting an animal that has been loved and well taken care of, there's nothing wrong with being compensated for all of the work that goes into that. So I think there's nothing wrong with making a profit as you sell animals either. Last one that I want to talk about for this week's video is it ethical to breed two animals together where there is a known defect that can happen from them? And I actually think that it's not. I believe, now I'll use this one because it's the easiest one, but there's lots of other examples on this. Let's say that you had Aries. Let's say that he was a sunset and he had spider in him, and we had a het sunset female who also had spider in her. Doesn't matter the fact that there is only a 25% chance that per egg, each baby would get spider and spider to be a super spider. The fact that that pairing could produce a lethal combination, and we would know that that could produce a lethal combination with the babies, and we did it anyway because we were just wanting to make more sunsets, I think that that is actually unethical. And I think that that is a situation that people shouldn't do. I'm not saying that nobody's ever done it in the past, or if you have done it, or anybody's done it, that they're a bad person, but that is not something that crosses the line for us. We never want to pair two animals together where we know that there's a chance of a lethal combination. There's also other combos like cinnamon to cinnamon, black pastel to cinnamon, things like that, where it's not necessarily there's a lethal combo, but there's such a prevalence for genetic defects that that's something that we also try to stay away from, because again, we don't want to cause any undue suffering for any animal, even if it's not an animal that exists right now. And if we are trying to do that simply to make a combo, because that's what we have available to us, I think that that's where you kind of are putting the business before the welfare of the animals, and I think that that is key. If you put the welfare of the animals first, no matter what, you're gonna be perfectly fine. There's no ethical gray area of making sure that your animals are always taken care of and always healthy and happy and whatnot. I don't want to mean to anthropomorphize them, but I think that taking care of your animals is always the best way to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was a little bit shorter, but if you did, hit the like button, leave a comment. I know I've said it like 7,000 times during this video, as well as subscribe. If you want to reach out to us directly and have a conversation, head over to IG because it's way easier to talk on there. You can send DMs and we'll talk. We can set up a phone call even. So if you guys want to actually have a conversation with us, go to IG. We are at Leviathan_snakes. If not, we'll see you next week.